Don't mind if my cheeks look a little swollen. I got my wisdom teeth out. So, if you can't understand me too well, but you probably can't understand me too well anyway, because I got a hillbilly accent. But that's besides the point. Anyway, when I was a little kid, there was a part of my life where I lived with my great grandmother, and the most part I enjoyed the time that we spent together. She's in her 80s now. I don't see her much as I should. But when we spent time together, we would watch shows like Stanford and Son. We would watch things like Good Time. We would watch old westerns like Daniel Boone and The Lone Ranger. We would watch game shows and cooking shows. Things that the elderly would watch. And she was very particular about people watching TV in the living room. That was her area. But whenever I had an opportunity to watch something, I'm scrolling through the channels, I'm flipping through them. The one thing she did not like me putting on were, in her words, those bad pictures, which was horror movies, which were, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, things full of violence, things with just, the graphic gruesomeness. To her, they were bad pictures. And when I was a little kid, I kind of found it humorous, because to me, I've grown up with, in a sense, with violence on my life. Just seeing it. I grew up watching R-rated movies, things like Scarface. So for me, I thought it was humorous. And I started growing up, and I thought, well, maybe it was because of her religious values. But then I started thinking, well, when in the United States, though, did we honestly begin to, almost in a sense, monetize violence? We began to monetize romanticizing killing like serial killers. We began to sanitize the gruesomeness of violence and killings. Because, and let me go on to something else. When I was in college, my senior year, when I worked at the library, I found out that I had a DVD player. So I would check out the DVD player and then check out movies with it as well. And one of the movies I watched was Natural Born Killer, which was written by Quentin Tarantino. But in the beginning of the movie, everybody's so fascinated by the man and the woman that are running rampant in America, taking people's lives. And even though it was a movie, by the end of it, though, I kind of feel like that is such a true narrative within the American landscape. Like, I feel like we have a problem with distinguishing reality from fantasy, because our reality is so desensitized within the fantasy. Like, that's just how I see it. That's how I feel. That's the only way I can explain it. Like, one example I have is these dark romances these dark romance novels women will read. Or even, like the ideas of 50 Shades of Grey, something like that. But in reality, anything that deals with like the hashtag Me Too movement, deals with, domestic violence and abuse, it deals with assault. Women are strong advocates of that, but why do we find it okay to be reading something that goes against those beliefs? Why do we think it's fun? Why are we willing to put our money towards an author and a publishing company that is promoting this in a good way, when in reality those things are not good? It's one thing to write a book about a woman who experienced, or a man or woman who has experienced those things, and they're trying to get past those things. They're trying to learn to live their life in a normal sense, to move on. But that's not what happened in these books. Why is our mind so... Why has the media, the entertainment industry taught us that it's okay to believe in the idea of if it bleeds, it leads? Why are we so fascinated by these negative aspects of violence, of abuse, of assault? And the same thing with the serial killers too. Like, the Menendez brothers, the Netflix special, the two monster things that are made on Netflix, the Jeffrey Dahmer story and the Menendez brothers. Now I know they're not the same, but we don't make shows about killers or about the killing of an individual and hope for it to be educational. Like, you would think that these programs would in some sense be like, oh, we have to be careful about how we treat other people, how we treat our children, because maybe they could grow up like this. And I don't think we grasp the concept when it comes to watching those shows, because we get these conventionally attractive actors and we sanitize their story, we romanticize their story, we glorify their story. We don't give you all the nits and bits and grits of who these people were really. So, and then people they don't really grasp the full content of what they're watching, because to them it's all for entertainment. But at the end of the day, somebody did lose their life. At the end of the day, somebody did experience something that was horrible towards them. I don't know if anybody else thinks like this. And I understand, when we go to the movies, when we watch a show, when we read a book, I understand we do want to be entertained. We do want to laugh. We do want our hearts to be pounding, from excitement, from fear. But to me, it just doesn't make any sense when I look back on my life as a child with my grandmother. And she would see this violence and stuff in the movies and things like that, It doesn't make sense of where in the American society do we begin to monetize this? When do we begin to say it's okay for everybody to watch this? It's okay, because I feel like now, even though we say that, what we play and what we watch, what we listen to doesn't affect us, I feel like we do become desensitized by the mass shootings in our schools. We do become desensitized to the kidnapping and assault of young women, whether they be on reservations, whether they be within the American communities. I think we do become desensitized because it's just so much a part of our reality in a fictional way that we can't seem to grasp that this is really happening to somebody, and that the amount of trauma, the amount of gruesomeness towards them is very severe, if that makes sense. But that's all I have to say on this topic. I don't know if anything I said made sense, but that's just how I feel.